meditation is precisely like a meeting with awareness. Because we as individuals, we may have a lot of thoughts or a lot of distractions. So awareness may not seem to be accessible for us now or in general. So this meeting with awareness that is already, for all of us, for everyone, already happening, already beyond happening or not happening, we can say that we are practicing mindfulness or practicing a willingness for ourselves to be aware and also to not attach. There are, for example, many things to be aware of. There are sensations in the body. There are sounds. Sometimes sounds come out of the body. Sometimes sounds are in the environment. There are sights, colors, shapes, forms. There are feelings like the feeling of the temperature or the general feeling of your emotional state, such as being happy, being sad, being a little bit tired, or being a little bit energetic, or a little bit worried. So this meaning of meeting with awareness is a willingness to be aware of anything, everything that is already. You don't need to do anything to make things to be aware of. There are already so many things to be aware of. So this willingness to be aware, this willingness to be mindful, is a willingness to experience what is already happening. And instead of attaching to a particular color, a particular sound, a particular feeling, we're willing to not do that. And that willingness to not do that, the experience of detachment, is just like the experience of things, in that things are already appearing. There's already so many things, and those things are already impermanent, already temporary, already changing. So then this meeting with awareness is to get out of your way, to get out of your normal way of being, your normal way of thinking, your normal way of doing or not doing. to notice, to watch, to be still, or be sitting, or be standing, or be walking, and to notice these things that are already there without trying to grab a hold of them, without trying to figure them out, without trying to manage them, without trying to understand them. I'm allowing me to be me. I'm allowing this to be this. I'm allowing sensations inside of my body to arise and pass away without getting involved in doing something. I'm allowing all my thoughts to come and go as they please, freely. To get some effect, to get some realization, to get some wisdom of how we are always meeting with awareness. There needs to be a sense of consistency, a sense of diligence, a sense of almost constant remembering, constant reminding, so that you allow all things, any things, thoughts, for example, to come and go freely, without interfering, without trying to control, without trying to manage, without trying to enjoy, without trying to ruminate on how difficult or perplexing it is, whatever it might be. As long as you continue to subscribe, to click on thoughts, you will continue to create an algorithm inside of yourself that is based in touching, holding, fixating, thinking about more and more. And you won't just be late to this meeting with awareness. You will miss this meeting with awareness entirely. You will always be in a rush, in a hurry, in a contrivance, in a complicatedness, in a stupor of thinking, in a stupor of vagueness. In a stupor of forgetting this meeting with awareness, that every sensation, every sound, every sight, every form, every feeling is inviting you to experience or to show up to. You have to stop letting other people's identities, stories, personalities become something that you're carrying with you. Put everything down. Put all the stories down. Put all the identities down. Lay them to rest. Life itself is not separate from death. Arising is not separate from passing away. Your suffering or your lack of insight is not separate from the fullness of space, the spaciousness of awareness, the loveliness and the subtlety of just being. Let's enjoy just being, regardless of if it feels good or feels bad, regardless of if it feels neutral. Enjoy the irrelevance of how it is or how it was or how it could be. And that irrelevance is always resonating when we're willing to meet with awareness that is full stop, not about thoughts about things. Breathe. Ignore thinking. Ignore the thoughts that you have. Do not take your thoughts seriously. Give irrelevance to your own thoughts. And give forgiveness to the you that has arbitrarily believed in this and that thought just because it's appeared. Your ego is out of control. Your ignorance, your stupidity, your vagueness is well known. Your selfishness is well known. It's time to cut the shit and stop pretending to be a good person. Stop pretending to be living a deep life. Stop pretending to be important. And start remembering and noticing how impermanent all things are. How impermanent all things have always been. Remember, remember, remember. With each breath, remember. With each heartbeat, remember. With each noticing of a sensation in the body, remember. Your thoughts, your opinion, your feeling, your desire, your fear mean fuck all here. Remember that you are not an important person here. You are not a leader here. You are not an influencer here. That you are weak. That you are irrelevant. That you are empty of things. Just like the sky does not depend on clouds, you do not depend on appearances. You is just a thought, in the same way that that is a moving sound, free of identity, free of self, free of good, free of bad, free of right, free of wrong, free of relevance to nature. You are irrelevant to this meeting with awareness. Even if your eyes are closed, open the mind's eye beyond the tension in the face and the forehead and the skull. Widen out the mind's eye to be the whole body. Feel and give and offer the irrelevance of thoughts, the pristineness of the irrelevance of thoughts. Give thoughts what they need: forgiveness, uninvolvement, unentanglement. Meditation is really a way of no thinking. And when you know how to not think, you can reflect upon this continuous experience of meeting with awareness. Wherever you are, regardless of the situation, the scenario, the story, this meeting with awareness is most valuable, most alive, most freeing. Do not think. If you think, you will be whipped, you will be chained, you will be tortured, you will be sent to hell. Do not think. Breathe. Stop trying to get attention from other people. Stop trying to pretend that your opinion has relevance for people that you wanted to have relevance for. You are not an elder. You are not a spiritual teacher. You are not a meditation master. You are not the teacher. You are not a leader. You are a selfish convict of greed, anger, delusion. And this is the space and the opportunity to light the fire under the ass of you, to relieve itself, to release itself, to see where this youing is arising from, to see where these thoughts are arising from, and also where they are returning to. Where are the sounds arising from? Where are the sounds returning to? You want to be relevant. You want to be famous. You want to be important. Just like a cloud wants to be itself, dissolution is already. Ending is already. You are irrelevant to this. Meditation and this meeting of awareness is then the experience of the irrelevance of you, the experience of the irrelevance of your thoughts, the experience of the irrelevance of the sensations in the body, the experience of the irrelevance of the story that you believe in. Breathe in, no thinking. Breathe out, forgiving thoughts that have arisen. No thinking, forgiving thoughts. You are not a politician. You are not a social leader. You are not a philosopher. You were not sent here by the king or queen. You're stumbling around with frustration, greed, and non-practical complicated thinking. Your life is a lie. A lie made up of truth. The truth of being now. The truth of awareness now. The truth of not thinking now. This is a protest. This is a revival. This is actualizing forgiveness and actualizing a willingness to not think with the teacher, breath moment by breath moment. Release control and surrender to the power of the irrelevance of the story that is buried deep down inside the mind of yourself and your life. Surrender control. Lose the war. Die. And as we say in the world of meditation and Buddhism, breathe. Don't think, breathe. It's not only your thoughts that are irrelevant here, but it is also the thoughts of others, the thoughts of your parents, the thoughts of your loved ones, the thoughts of the social media people that you follow. All stories, all thoughts, be gone. Like giving yourself an exorcism, like giving yourself an enema, clearing out the clods, the coagulations of complicated thinking, of frustration, of confusion, of selfishness, with the clear water of being aware, breathing and being aware. You're stupid. You're a fucking dummy. So you don't know how to meditate. And you can't meditate because of how selfish you are. So join the club. Returning with each and every breath. Returning with each and every heartbeat that is not based in story, not based in thoughts. You may, for example, think that you're not thinking, but that's because you're too fucking stupid and unconcentrated enough to look at the mind, to look at your direct experience. You would rather look at Donald Trump's asshole and eat the shit that comes out of it than meditate because of how stupid and selfish and egoic and fucking dumb that you are. If we cannot embrace our weakness, if we cannot embrace our lack of experience, then we will always go around being the dumb fucking idiot saying bullshit, walking into someone else's house and asking them who they are. Breathe, dummy, breathe. Gather the focus, gather the concentration, gather the willingness to be with this. To cut thinking. To prevent further thinking from arising. Okay, dear friends, that's our guided meditation portion of our live stream. And now we will open it up for people to ask questions or share their experience. As some of you may know, we are in the Australian outback in the midst of our meditation tour, meditation teaching tour of the Monk Life Meditation community. I'll also put the WhatsApp number in the YouTube live chat, so if anyone would like to call in and ask questions or share their experiences that way, you'd be welcome to do so. Friendly reminder, this is concerned with mindfulness and detachment, Buddhism and meditation, and that's something that's very deep and very real here in this community. Possibly, Kasitio Roku. Possibly. Welcome to call in. Hello? What can I do for you, young man? Hello? This is Dr. Rob speaking. No, I can't hear you. Yes, I cannot hear you. Also, if you'd like to call in, you can also consider making a donation if you're new here. So what we need to learn how to do is not really to be offended by anything and not to take anything personally. We have to realize or recognize how shallow it is to take things personally when it comes to non-self, when it comes to a direct experience of reality as it is right now. So if I, for example, call you a fucking cunt, what are we going to do? Harm each other? We make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. We get upset or we get confused or we just say something just to say it. So everything, every sensation, every sound, every action is an opportunity to stop. Full stop. We don't have to be together, but we can be together. And if we are together, then we should try to make the best use of that experience as human beings. We should try to be kind. We should try to be compassionate. We should try to be wise. But that's not going to work, full stop. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to create difficulties. And through those creations of difficulties, we have all these opportunities to stop. To stop the mind of complicated thinking, to stop the mind of storytelling that's just based on our anger or our fear or our greed or our confusion. Now, one of the things that you do want to be aware of and kind of watch out for is that, because I've seen this myself in others, and I don't think you can see it in yourself, but when you are overrun with emotions, let's say, you're thinking in a way because you are angry or you are confused or you are in this very complicated realm of experiencing. But it doesn't seem for you at that moment or in that experience that you're actually thinking about anything. So those thoughts have become kind of a coagulated blob that appears as this anger or this frustration or this just wasted attention, wasted energy, this non-practical, complicated thinking. So my responsibility is to say no, full stop. And you may die at any moment. You may be killed. You may go crazy. Or a crazy person might go on you. Happens all the time. So this is a willingness, as much as it is to embrace life and open to life and to sing songs, it's a willingness to embrace our doom, to embrace our death. That's why we have to be very careful about enjoyment and pleasure seeking and pleasure perpetuating behaviors, because they create more of these habit energies to be lost in thought or to be lost in idealism. There's nothing ideal about anything. The more ideal it seems, the more dangerous it is, because the more people can get attached to outcomes. or protecting it or fearing it, fearing what could happen if someone else takes it. This is a very serious meditation retreat program. These are very deep teachings coming from a very deep place. I've had very deep experiences in my life through the spiritual trainings and such. So this is not a place for people to just kind of be doing a walkabout in this dominion, because it's dangerous. You're likely to step in a hole and break your foot if you're being reckless, you know. So yes, people can freely come and go, come by and go by, but we can't create the entire context to be like a Starbucks selling something conveniently packaged. This is fuck you and fuck your life. You're a dummy. You're not enlightened. You're broken. You're greedy. You're frustrated. You're delusional. You'd rather suck shit out of Donald Trump's ass than listen to the teachings of the Buddha or a meditation master or whatever. Really, you would, literally and figuratively. That's how powerful this momentum, this habit energy of consumption and pleasure seeking and pain avoidance is. And just the perpetuation, the perpetual motion machine of the ego, of the identity. You drop one story and then somehow another one appears. And this is dangerous as well. This is dangerous to the norms of your life. This is dangerous to the norms of your identity. This is dangerous to cultural values. So in teaching abruptly and honestly, I put myself in danger. But that's what this is all about. Being willing to face all aspects of life, which is very filled and infused with death. Yeah, now we have someone honest for once. S. Ronder says, oh, I would have for breakfast Trump's diarrhea every morning. So a lot of people that are having that for breakfast every morning, but that's called Fox News. Or other news stations too. So Rabbit says, why do we want to get out? We want to get out because we have a slice of wisdom. Because we have a blessing to see the frailty of pleasure seeking and pain avoidance. It's a real blessing. It's a real gift. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy or that other people are going to understand it. You might go to a 10-day Vipassana retreat and you're probably not going to have the best time of your life, but you might have a fairly good time, seemingly, afterwards. Try to drag somebody else in there, especially in the midst of it. Day 5. And now you're super vulnerable, super wired and sensitive, and you're calling your friend or your family and saying, get here, get into this meditation retreat, and you're going to sit in stillness and face your mind in silence for the next 5 days. You kidding me? But these teachings are to direct and open up that experience. A serious meditation experience, a serious vulnerability experience. Like finding out that you have this massive corporation that has all this data, that has all this wealth, that has all this power, and that there's a massive exploit in your software. So the self is the exploit. The self is the breaking point. When the self is challenged, it was never there to begin with. If you can use your own eyes to see, that is. If you can use your own ears to hear, which most people cannot. Most people are looking for talking heads, celebrities, influencers to see for them, to think for them, to hear for them. So we want to get out because we're blessed. But that wanting in itself is a kind of suffering, but it's a good suffering. It's a kind of seeking, but it's a good seeking. It's a wholesome seeking. And we use the foundation of the Buddha's teachings on generosity and especially forgiveness, because it doesn't matter how much you idealize flower power or free love or whatever, you are going to make all kinds of mistakes. You may fall in love with someone who makes all kinds of mistakes, and now you have to experience that and go through that. So the forgiveness is paramount. The restarting and refreshing the mind of story is paramount. To have this meeting with awareness. Rather than this meeting with stories and thoughts. You know, it seems kind of abrasive, but nature is also kind of abrasive, and it's also completely wonderful. There's no thoughts in mountains, there's no thoughts in the landscape, there's no thoughts in the sky, but somehow our entire lives have become about just shallow thoughts that tend to be exploitative and based in me, what I want. So this is not what you want. This is not what I want either. So what is it? The mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Thoughts come, thoughts go, but the mind is a clear blue sky. So most people haven't earned a seat at the table. You want to have your opinion heard, or you want your opinion to be relevant, or you want your story to be relevant, but you are irrelevant to the table that is in front of us. Someone like the know-it-all. You are irrelevant here. You don't just fixate on things and then talk about things and then add on more things on top of those things and then look around for people to believe you. Shut the fuck up. And in a certain way, nature is always saying that. The sky is always screaming that because it's so pristine, it's so open, it's so full, it's so all receiving and all embracing. It doesn't matter how much you give to it, it's irrelevant. It's nothing about if you did good or you did bad. It's experiencing what is now without grasping. Being willing to endure, willing to feel it, more and more and more and more, willing to feel what's happening now that isn't some fucking story. But we're addicted to story. We're addicted to thinking. We're addicted to words and phrases. We're addicted to seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. We're addicted to exploiting the environment. We're addicted to exploiting animals. We're addicted to exploiting and controlling children. And we have been for a very, very long time. Controlling and exploiting women, being addicted to that. Controlling and exploiting people of different races. We've been really addicted to that for hundreds of years. So this full stop is something that requires your whole body and mind. Not just making a donation, sending a couple bucks or something, sacrificing your life now. Sacrificing your worldview now. Sacrificing all things so that you can meet with the everything that is already not something. And you can breathe with that. You can walk with that. You can sing with that, you can talk with that, but you can also get yourself quite entrenched in the thicket or in the swamp of words and phrases, or the swamp of views, the swamp of stories. And remember your position of irrelevance. Remember that just because you are somewhere doesn't mean that you are in control there. It doesn't mean that your opinion is relevant there. It doesn't mean that your experience is relevant there. Think about it. Think about not thinking. Have you ever been on a fucking meditation retreat? We don't like to be challenged. We like to eat fast food and watch TV and smoke weed and neglect our children and be a fucking horrible human being. That's what we like. We like morbid obesity. We like getting fucking high. We like getting fucking drunk. And balancing raising children with being a drunk stoner. Or what have you. Pick your poison. I don't like that. So here, the context is not you going around and being the king of the castle wherever you go, the queen of the castle wherever you go. The context here is know and don't know, and just practice not knowing, and be willing to not know, be willing to not understand. This is very open to conversation, but if we can't accept no, then there is no possibility for conversation or communication. The only possibility is for war, internal or external. So this is a training and a way of learning to say no to being afflicted, no to suffering, no to the perpetuation of greediness or stinginess or angriness or frustrationness or non-practical complicated thinkingness. No, period. It doesn't mean that we're sniffing Trump's ass. It doesn't mean that we're bending over and saying, I'm available. This is our home. This is our community. This is our center. And what you offer here is not your bullshit, but it's your whole heart, whole body, whole mind. And it's not something that can be talked about. Just like the rock can't be talked about. You got to see it to believe it. You've got to experience it for yourself. That's why it's such a blessing and a joy to be out here in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Australian outback, because there's nothing but space. There's nothing but loneliness. There's nothing but isolation. There's emptiness everywhere. You need a friend, you go look at the squawking birds. It's very challenging. Life is very challenging. It doesn't matter how much you cover it up with air conditioning and smartphones and TV and video games and scrolling and watching bullshit on YouTube and pretending to be politically involved just because you love masturbating as you get angry about bullshit politics that have nothing to do with you. This applies to everyone because we are all interconnected. We all have these elements inside of us. Or let's say, for example, because there's a lot of likable qualities about Donald Trump. That's how he's the president, right? But let's say we hate Donald Trump. We totally hate him. Yeah, but in a certain way, you have an affinity towards him. You are perpetuating a deep emotional connection to him. So you might as well like him. If you're going to be that connected to him, you should be more connected to people you like, right? So all these people who are sniffing Trump's farts, they do a lot better to start sniffing their own farts, to really take a good whiff, to really look closely. What's your diet? What thoughts are you having? Where's your mind going? What's your intention right now? To turn the mind around, to look at oneself, to look at one's direct experience. You have to stop pretending that you are a serious person. Even when we're trolls in the world, or kind of live life in a loose way, deep down there's this serious you. It's really time for me to eat. It's really time for me to look at my phone. It's really time for me to think that way about that person. You have to stop pretending that you've earned being a serious person. You have to stop pretending that you were actually raised properly, with community, with mentors. You have to start recognizing your weakness, that you're covering up with this kind of pretending to be funny or pretending to not take things seriously. You don't have a choice. We all have to take life seriously because the body can be very, very painful, because the mind can be very, very painful. And please feel free, friends, to call in on WhatsApp if you like. Yeah, hippie, welcome. I guess you'll just have to stay tuned to find out, eh? You might be a communist, but are you a gay communist? A lot of people think I'm gay because I love the rainbow. But Skittles love the rainbow too. Skittles isn't gay. Who cares? You're a human being, most of all. So this is also an invitation to connect with the humanness. Yeah, blind mind and closed ears. But sometimes it gets overwhelming because it's not just blind eyes and closed ears, because those are the people that are like the fiddle faddle, kind of wandering around and doing this and that. But it's the evil that can exist in this world, or the seeming like very unskillful and very aggressive and very uh, it's like you think what happened with the native people of Australia here and all those horrible things that took place. And we have this great capacity to do horrible things. Not a lot of people think about that. How great of a capacity we have to do those horrible things. And that even though we may not do those horrible things, our culture expresses our tendency and our cultural affinity towards doing those horrible things. So it's kind of in our face. And then we love watching that to see that we're not going through that, right? We're not the ones getting caught trying to meet up with a 14-year-old girl. But of course, that's happening all over the United States regularly. very popular on YouTube these days. So there is a tendency, kind of an animalistic openness in us to exploit, to kill, to harm, to mangle, to wrangle, to rampage. And there's a, there's a real disgustingness in that is very difficult to work through. But if we take this path and these teachings seriously, we will be able to work through and beyond even that disgust. Oh, how disgusting. Actually, if we looked at our own body, we would see how disgusting our own body is, with the shit and the organs and all those kinds of things. This is not a place for people who like me. This is a place for people who are ready to practice, hippie. Shut your fucking mouth and get to work. This is a meditation hall. This isn't a place for you to stretch out your ego. No offense. You're very welcome. You're loved. You're beloved. You're so welcome. But you have to be willing to practice here. Not ask me to fill in the blanks of your vague involvement with me. I'm at work, I'm busy, I'm teaching. And I know it can be a little bit harsh, but what can I say? It's a harsh world. It doesn't change how welcome you are, but these are my teachings. And if you're here, you have to be ready to receive that. You know, I think about, like very disgusting, ugly men that stalk women and things like that. Sometimes I feel that way with some of the people that stalk me or follow me. But, this is about mindfulness and detachment, not emphasizing or fixating on the nastiness or the darkness that exists out there, the unidealness of having a body, Because a lot of people who are gross or aggressive or toxic, they've justified that in one way or another. And we can't control the weather. We can't control what happens. We don't need to. We don't need to be in control to just be. Like our capacity to trick other people, that's also your capacity to go and torture a little girl or something like that. There's nothing special about our capacity to trick someone else. It's like the capacity that meat cuts when you put a blade to it. So we really have to accept that these are parts of our, not just our society and what's happening in the world today. This is a part of our ancestry. This is a part of where we come from. Violence against children, sexual abuse towards children is rampant, is happening all over the world, and has been happening that way for a long time. And it's a very large part of the culture of modern America and the world. So this is not, I'm not in like dhyana now. If I was in dhyana, well, of course, nobody could trick me about anything because I'd be gone up in the clouds of meditative absorption. But being here and being open to receiving people as a guest in my home, You're definitely not going to be stalking me and showing up out here. We're in the fucking middle of the bush outback. This is an open door for guests to come in. So, of course, in my humanness, if a guest comes in, I'm going to try to give them a fair shake. I'm going to try to give anyone that comes in here a fair shake, regardless of how 90% of the population are fucking full on stupid retards, or 80% or 70%, or, hopefully it's less and less. Hopefully I'm totally wrong about it, at all, and everybody's kind of well minded. So it's like someone opens a door, prepares food. All the while, it's not about you. You weren't invited. The food's not for you. The live's not for you. Nothing is for you, right? But anyways, they've opened up the door. They've prepared food, and then you come in and you shit in the food, and look at that person and smirk. All right, that's not me. That's not how I live my life. And it's weird that we have these kind of cultural expressions or psychologies that go on, but that's got nothing to do with me. you know it's like the sexual desire of the disgusting 70-year-old 60-year-old man that's masturbating and has all this sexual desire for some teenage TikTok girl or whatever. That has nothing to do with that girl. It doesn't matter how much you masturbate and you get off on it. So there's a lot of sick shit out there. And there's a lot of sick shit in here and in there. So my advice, be more humble, be more open, be more curious. Be more reverent of the humanness of other people. Be more appreciative that this is a door that has been opened to someone's life. Not so that I can masturbate, so that we can talk about meditation and Buddhism and practice together and support each other and share experience together. Oh, but that's not allowed because I need to be masturbating. Well, that's not what this is about. Just because my door is open doesn't mean you can come in here and masturbate. You see what I did there? Believe it or not, that's the way that I experienced it. So what does that mean? And then we're looking for all these meanings when actually we should just be opening and relieving and refreshing and forgiving, instead of confusing and contriving and coagulating and complicating. Enjoy each and every stone. Enjoy each and every breath. Enjoy your capacity to not believe in your own thoughts. Or rather, remember and realize and practice not believing, and just breathing, and just seeing, and just hearing, without adding thoughts to it, as if every sound has a thought that relates to it, or a thought that can hold dominion over a sound. It's ridiculous. Nonsense. It's just... So what is that? And then you try to create some weird ego story about your beliefs about me and bring me into that, or you bring someone else into that. That's not what this is about, Patna. This isn't about interpersonal ego bullshit. You might think that it's about, in some kind of weird cult or different kind of way, interpersonal ego bullshit, because You believe that you have a right to know my experience. You believe that my experience is in reference to your experience. You believe that Buddhism or meditation or whatever has to be something that you can understand or eat or consume or order at McDonald's like that. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it's not that way. So the depth of this experience of awareness, of a meeting with awareness, is beyond the purview of the ego. Just like the mountain over there and the sky over here are beyond the purview or the dominion of your thoughts about the sky. And you can go and enslave and torture and destroy whatever you can get your hands on, or make it into just some fucking gross shit and then try to make people eat it. You can do that. But my position is to give the ending of thinking and to invite the giving of the ending of thinking. Concerned with Buddhism, which is not your fucking toenail clippings. It's something deep and rich that's existed for hundreds and thousands of years of tradition, with philosophy, with poetry, with masters, with elders, with hundreds of thousands of millions of monks over all these years. So if you're not interested in that, if you're not willing to respect that and have reverence for that, get the fuck out of here. And anyways, I don't care if you like that or not. Go fuck yourself with what you care about. Practice, listen, surrender, give. Or I don't want anything to do with you. Which is not an affront, just like me not eating the shit out of your toilet. Does that offend you? So all these people pretending to be aficionados, all these people pretending to be, I'm a well-experienced chap. You're not well-experienced. You just are threatened by that which you don't know, whereas not knowing is my home. And you want to make this into something about knowing things, and that's unacceptable here, regardless of the story that you tell behind it. That's irrelevant here. It's unacceptable in practice, and it's irrelevant in principle. So why would you practice it? That's why monks get the fuck out of Dodge and go to the forest or go to the desert or what have you. This is not a conversation on equal terms. You don't get to magically be someone who knows about meditation and Buddhism just because, you're fucking here. You're the guest. I'm the host. That's life, whether we like it or not. And we all have to accept that element of whether we like it or not. Because if we can't accept that, we can't build on what we have already. So standing outside my window and masturbating or whatever, good on you, but, watch out for the snakes inside your own mind. The snakes of anger, the snakes of greed, the snakes of being a dumb guest. Being a stupid, retarded, dumb guest. Because you'll carry that with you in your life, Won't you? For me, I want to be a smart guest. But I can help you. I know I can help you. Well, I don't want your fucking help. Go mind your own business. Get out of here. I don't care if you think you can help me or you think that we've got something in common. It's just like the fucking weirdo creep masturbating to the girls on TikTok. I don't care. Doesn't mean I don't want you to not suffer, but that's what this is kind of about. We're all moving on a journey to nowhere, taking it easy, taking it slow, taking it slow. No more worry, no need to hurry, nothing to carry. Let it all go, let it all go. The Buddha is seen in an autumn leaf. The Dharma is a floating cloud. The Sangha body is everywhere. My true home is right here. Breathing in, flowers are blooming. Breathing out, I am aware that bamboos are swaying. My mind is at peace. My true home is right here. We've all got our own debt to pay back, so it's a process, not a more of a process than a practice. Actually, I'd say, like a happening. Like a cloud doesn't practice being a cloud. A cloud is a process, right? A taking place. All right, let's get some big W's in the chat, everybody. Who's excited? Who's having a real good time?
I am.
Yeah. Maybe too good of a time, eh?
I wouldn't say that.
All right, good. And you're still in the middle? Maybe it's me starting to have too good of a time.
It's just all a process of letting go.
All the process of letting go, yeah. But who's letting go? Who's doing the letting go?
I don't know.
So you have to be more willing. You don't have to do anything, but more open with not knowing. More open to this experience of not knowing. The not knowing is almost like an openness, but it's like we're constantly filling up that not knowing with things that can be known. But this is a thing that can't be known. And yourself, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but yourself is also a thing that cannot be known. So if it can't be known, what is it? And actually, if people are complaining and people are going against you in this world, in this day and age, you might be doing something right. Especially if you're serious about what you're doing and you're concerned with virtue and mindfulness and meditation and wisdom. You're trying to do your best, If there's a wave of people who are kind of, against that, or trying to interfere with that, might be a sign that you're doing something revolutionarily good or wise or something that has a depth. There's something about the sense restraint or the enduring or the being with the bitterness, or just, it doesn't even have to be bitterness, but just more and more this willingness to not know and to be open together with everything, that makes everything way more enjoyable, way more fine, way more refined. Every opportunity becomes an opportunity rather than an obligation. So you have all these, talk about bliss, everything becomes blissful. Because that everything is this opportunity to perpetuate this freedom endlessly. But until you can work with emphasizing freedom in the suffering or the uncomfortableness, then it can't be perpetual. It always has to rise and crash. And I see myself going through that day by day, this rising and crashing of feeling good and then feeling miserable. And these are the seasons of our mind and the seasons of our identity in life that, we're working to master. But the Buddha never told anybody to do a meditation retreat. It's not natural. You can do it, can be good, but it's not, the Buddha didn't teach that. And you think he would, right? He'd say, lay people, if you want to get, enlightened, sit together somewhere for a meditation retreat. At least a day, he would say, something like that. I'm not much of a sutta head, so I can't speak too much on it. Where are Donald Trump's farts in the Australian outback? Only in our own mind. And Donald Trump, I know farters, and Donald Trump looks like a farter. What do you think, Aditya? Do you think Donald Trump's a farter?
I think he's a professional photo.
Yeah, I think he is too. I think it's something he's big on. There's nothing wrong with farting. I'm not trying to come out against anybody. Poppy is, I don't know who Poppy is, but they're sending you big hugs, Lee.
Like a virtual hug?
Yeah, well, I don't think they're coming to the Outback, but
Like one of those, like when you don't touch someone but you can stand in front of them and I don't never had a virtual hug before.
well, first time for everything.
In India, I went to a tribe where the there was no, you weren't allowed to like have physical contact between the male and female. It's like if anyone's been
Yeah.
to India, yeah. But and then we were like this bunch of clowns, and you know, kind of some we were getting a bit loved up. You
Yeah,
know?
that's right.
And but they when we went there, they said you have to be, you're not allowed to touch a member of the opposite sex. And so we would go, well, we would go up to each other and stand in front of each other and not touch, but do this like little, like a hippy dippy woo woo
Yeah.
hug, huggy wuggy.
Well, make America great again, even if you just see it as entertainment and you don't agree, you can still consider to make a donation. You know, that's what America is all about, is paying money for what you get. So if you're entertained, it's a good reason to make a substantial financial contribution to the cause. Do you think you could live in a place like this?
Ah, I mean, anything's possible. I have lived here before. I stayed here for several months, and I just follow the energy, you know, where it flows. And when I was staying here last time, 10 years ago, every night, like when we go to the sculpture park, you'll see there's just every night I would look up at the stars, and there was like the stars and planets were like aligning into a line. And I kept saying to Uncle, I'm like, when the stars and planets align, that's when I'll leave. And they just kept slowly lining, and then there was just this big line, and then someone came through, like a visitor, and was going to Melbourne, and then I got to hitch out. So, and now I'm back. But can I stay? I don't. I like isolation. I eat it for breakfast. So.
Well, we're gonna have to eat it for breakfast. We're running out of food.
Yeah, well, I'll have to do some fasting or I don't know, something. I'm sure. When the food runs out, we leave, or you know, or I can just dump you out the front and you can hitch a ride to the Rock.
Well, can try it. But it's good. I mean, I think that's a good experience to be running out of food. You know, it's very human, like
Yeah.
integrated experience.
Mm.
There's nobody to blame. It's like, who's to blame? Where's the food? At the sky or something, you know?
We probably eat too much food in our bourgeoisie, you know, easy to get society anyway. I mean, where I live, where you guys came in Tarnagula, I don't have access to any supermarkets or anything, so, and I only go to the shops, like I avoid them like the plague, to be honest. So it's only when I'm completely absent of anything that I have to go and get petrol or food, which is once every fortnight, whatever. But here you can live off the blessings of the people. Like even in a completely isolated place like this, that's the nature of the place. That's what it's built on, a sanctuary, like a home. And everything, like nature will provide through the kindness and gratitude. You just have to show up for yourself.
Yeah.
Or have like, since I've been listening to you, I've learned about blessings. You know, you're gonna have the good blessings, and I guess other people would call that karma. Or,
Yeah.
But I like blessings. It's it resonates.
There's being out. This is the first time I've been out in a bush situation like this, and I've really informed me about, because like thinking about meditation centers and things like that. But with this Starlink, I know I've been talking about, but like Starlink and then solar, and then just having a conveyance or having a means to go out and get supplies and come back. I mean, you can be very connected, but also very free from, just people who are just wandering around, or even yourself wandering around because there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do except walk around in the desert. And this kind of property is really cheap. So maybe you could buy property and then you could build a small place, and not you, I'm just saying anybody, But maybe something more wholesome, or what's the word for that? Natural, holistic, more holistic way to live,
Yeah, I like holistic. I learned that term, like that whole like wraparound care, holistic, when I was working with the people with the complex medical health needs. And it's a good term. It's not that woo-woo holistic, terminology, but the more like looking at people holistically, all their different needs, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but with extra layers. But this place ebbs and flows too. I mean, we're here now, but
it's going to be hot eventually, right?
yeah, but the people, like, you got to look at this place holistically too. Like, just because we're here and there's just a couple of people here, but there are periods when there's like dozens of people here, and convoys come through, and it's just like a energetic thing. But we lost Uncle, and that's been very it's been like a void,
The elder of this region, this area. He was an activist, and he led against the nuclear, right?
He is protecting the land even now, because that's what Wooly B's here, and
his continuation,
yeah,
right?
I mean, that's what inspired. He was off doing his own thing, walking around Perth, and then when he found out, he just dropped everything and came here because he so wanted to just connect. So that's how powerful a person can be in their life even after they've passed, which I'm coming to understand that the death it's this, like, it's not death in a way. So I'm not there yet, but I'm like, when I walk around here and I look at all the rocks, and then I look at the fire, and I kind of get a feeling that it's hard to explain. I can't find the words for it, but it's changing how I view death, because I've always like missed people when they died, been like felt this ache, but now my view is changing, and I can't rely on all the processing that I used to do in a certain way. Because I'm 50 years old, I get like a record, you know, you cut grooves in, and so you get a bit stuck. And I'm a very open person, so but a lot of other people get quite stuck. But now I'm just like, I don't know, just throwing out the record. There is no record. So it's hard when you try and talk and find words to not fall back on those patterns. So yeah. They're more like what I was saying to Aditya, like realizations. You know, when you're ready, you have like a inner, like a realization, like within you, like in that sort of harmonizes and resonates, and then you just keep kind of when the knowledge or whatever is able to resound, then I can kind of grow and change, and or just be, just be happy or be aware. I don't have to do anything. It's kind of a relief. But then, like, it's sort of complicated too, It's simple but complex. And I used to say, I don't have any answers, I just have questions. And now I'm realizing, like, that, like, whenever you ask me something, I'm just, like, kind of genuinely going, and then I just really don't know the answer, and then I find out, I say I don't know, that's kind of like the answer in a way, not knowing. And I'm always trying to figure things out, so I'm always like, that past, I've been trying to figure it all out, and I've been like, I'm so determined with my research. I got my books and my pen, I'm like, I'll fucking nut this out. But then it turns out I
Just a lot of nonsense.
yeah. I'm just attached to it, I have been very attached to it. So it's just like I said, let it go. I do a mantra in the morning, and I'm like, I am letting go so life can flow, I am letting go so life can flow. But then it's got the I in it. I am letting go so life can flow, 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 I am
Well, you didn't get that mantra from me.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No. What would you say?
More metta, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering today, because you kind of have to build you concerned with the, it's a lot of different ways to cook an egg. But for me, this is what I think is most accessible and you can come back to easily. That, it's just that awareness is like yelling. But so that's everybody is that awareness, or coming from that awareness, or returning to that awareness, or realizing that awareness. But they just don't realize that they're realizing it. And so all the meditation and maybe the mantra or the self-help is confused because it's this idea, self-help for like being enlightened or the insight, because there's this idea that you are going through this. But it's more like a process rather than a practice. So that's why I'm emphasizing so much like being concerned with the meditation masters and the teachers. And I, at this point in my life, I'm more just like a connection point for all that, because I'm not fully sure what it means for me to be a teacher or to have students. It's becoming more open to me to feel more comfortable with that, which whereas before I didn't feel comfortable with that at all. I would always tell people like, you can't be my student or anything like that. But being able to be concerned with these meditation masters, or like that monastery, Plum Village Monastery nearby your house, and then you don't have to fix your whole life. Now you've just got somewhere to go on Sundays or what have you that's going to be an impact point. And a doubling up of a reminder to listen to Thich Nhat Hanh's Dharma talks or listen to the Plum Village community's guided meditations, etc. You know, so it's like if we're really sick, you don't need to think all about it and try and fix yourself. You just need to take medicine from somebody who's got a skill. You know, it's like almost continue to go up for chemo, then your cancer's gone, then you can start to think about becoming enlightened or questioning what is enlightenment and what is this awareness and what is not knowing. But when you're sick, you can't really do any of that. You know, so it's like healing yourself so that you can see the non-existence of self that is just awareness. And it's kind of, for me, I feel there's almost like I have a trauma response in me that's like waiting for something to happen, waiting for something bad to happen, or that things aren't going to work out or whatever. And that's always there in the background. But what I got to experience living in community and being with monks and nuns in this very strong context is like, well, something bad might happen, but it's not going to have anything to do with me. Because this Buddhism and this meditation and the meditation masters and the community is just, there's so much happening, there's so much going on that I am basically irrelevant. So it's like I'm that trauma response is becoming less as I see how irrelevant I am in the awareness or in the everythingness of this. But I think probably there's that underlying mechanism in people because we didn't have like a lot of community necessarily of, well, what's going to happen, like being neglected or being abandoned or having somebody blow up. Like when I was growing up, I have a very strong memory of my father and my stepmother, you know, the lovely people that they are, the good people that they are, but having conflict, you know, yelling and screaming. And I was just sitting there as a child, you know, and at that time, maybe I felt like I was self-aware or like I was independent in some way, but I was totally not dependent. And so I don't even know what a fight is. I don't even know what an argument is. I don't know anything, you know? And I'm just sitting there and this energy is like palpitating in me of this conflict that's going on. All the while, I don't even know what conflict is. And it's just like conditioning me. It's like conditioning my heart. And my heart and like the deeper the body has to be saying danger, because it couldn't be anything else than danger. But my mind was maybe like not even connected to my body enough to process that that's what was going on. But I remember feeling it, but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't necessarily feel that I was in danger, but I think my body felt in danger. You know, even though my ego was probably just disassociated or wasn't like fully selfified, you know, so I couldn't even think that I was in danger. So that's why I really try to like go slow and not set up too many things that are scheduled or that I have to do, or even like a scheduled time to eat, or, you know, just let things happen. And then in the midst of everything just being able to happen, I can just be where I am. You know, and then as I've taken care of myself, now I can consider like my skill, what my skills are, that I can help and take care of others. You know, what I can offer, what's natural for me to offer, what's convenient for me to offer. Not because I'm getting brownie points, but just because it's an opportunity to share and to give and to align myself with helping, rather than just doing nothing, or especially like scrolling and watching. You know, it's not so much you know, you don't even have Wi-Fi at your house, but like just watching videos and watching TikTok, and it's not necessarily so much suffering or like this really bad situation, but it's also totally not in any way good or beneficial. It's just vapid bullshit that you're taking in and like disassociating with. Not you, but anybody who does that.
just like what our friend Reg said yesterday when he was talking about what were the three things that was kind of creating all this disconnection in the communities and the youth and people. What was it? Greed and
It was very Buddhist.
he
For
was
me,
so
I think it was
Buddhist,
very
yeah.
Buddhist.
I know. Like I think we all
was
got
talking
that.
about.
'Cause, yeah, it was so. Yeah, it was. But it was the overuse of the mobile phone. Because it really does disconnect people if used improperly. It's just like if you give someone a weapon.
Well, they don't have other access to meaning, and they don't have like meaningful teachings that are beyond the allure of the city or being wealthy or driving a car or whatever. So you can sit around and educate people how to write in cursive or how to do math, but that's not really relevant for anybody's life. So what they're really being taught by is the impact of seeing people drive a car, or hearing about people making money, or hearing people about having a phone. But if there was other access to meaningful activities, then you can use your phone and it's in the midst of meaningful activities. But
Yeah.
now it's just all the meaning in the world is on your phone, is on your consuming. There's no other meaning in your life. And then even your family and your relationships is just like a burden you have to deal with to get back onto your phone.
It's just like overeating or
Yeah.
abusing anything.
Yeah.
And the attention span is what I notice as well, or lack thereof, of people that just, it's so brief. It's so difficult to have conversations with people, because everyone just zones out or just.
Well, you have to create the meaningful activities or meaningful environment, because it's like if you were a watchmaker, if you loved watches and you came over from England to the Native Americans, and then you're showing them this watch and showing them how it describes time, and you give it to them, they just drop it because it's irrelevant for them. It's not meaningful for them. So you kind of have to create an environment of meaningfulness, or like the capacity to connect meaningfully, and then like coming back to that awareness, but make use of that space where you feel a connection and there's a possibility of doing deep and meaningful things, like joining a meditation retreat or becoming a nun, or just being in community about these kinds of about awareness.
Or just working with children.
Yeah.
Hanging out with children and being a good role model. I was very serious I used to call myself like a child motivational speaker, and that's how I felt that's what I was doing, because it was just like that lifting up of the children, just, and providing them with this like sort of absurd place where they were safe and they weren't being monitored because the parents were all somewhere else. And then we would just do the magic together, and I would always get like that one kid. There's always one kid, and I'd be like, you can be my assistant, because that naughty kid is not a naughty kid. There's no such thing as a naughty kid, just bad parenting, and they just want attention, So as soon as you give them attention, they're just transformed.
Well, they need it. They need attention and they need attachment. And so now, modern generation, I mean, you got kids growing up, even if they have two parents, even if they're around, but they probably still both have to work. But they're addicted to their smartphones, and they're addicted to their own media and their own activities, and you can't give them the attention they need, which is full on, like all day, every day. And instead of that, it's been replaced with this industrial schooling complex that's forced on children. Okay, all right, because there's a question of how much agency does a child have, as like a baby doesn't have much agency, and then 10 up to 10 years old or 12. But once you're 14 years old and you have agency and you have self-awareness, why do you have to go to school? And you can say, well, you got to do this and that, but there's not actually a conversation. You have to go to that school. You have to graduate. Well, why do you have to go to that school and graduate? What if you don't want to? You have agency. You're a human being. I was saying that to you, Aditya, right? Like, what if somebody said, Australia made a new policy, you have to go to school until you're 24 or whatever. How would you feel about that? It's not even comprehensible, right? But children have to deal with that day after day, a year after year. And some children are quite self-aware by the time they're 10 or independent, and they're like, why do I have to do this? But you don't even give them a chance to ask that question because they're being forced into this structure where they have to do this thing and they can't have any agency over their own bodies.
This whole ideology of childism.
Yeah, childism.
Yeah, that you've kind of introduced me to, because I didn't actually, I was really surprised. I'd never heard the term before until your teachings. But there's also, in Australia, there's also something that happens which gives children too much agency to make life-altering decisions where they...
This is the second wave feminism turf stuff.
Well, no, it's the chemical castration of children. That's what it is. And the Safe School program that they introduced here in Australia is killing children. It's harming gay children and trans children.
Well, we're probably going to run out of food tomorrow. But
it's not something that under the guise of helping, it's
Thank you.
sick. Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kuchi. I just give him the Wi-Fi password.
Anyway.
Yeah, so second wave feminism turf. I'm going to let some other people deal with that down the line if we, continue to gather and
talk
support
about
each
children,
other.
that's like important, it's important to address.
Well, it comes back to that it's not about absolutes. It's a case-by-case basis. It's a moment-by-moment basis. And if you get stuck in those absolutes of those values, you're missing out on the immediate experience. And that's especially relevant to children because that's where they are all the time, primarily, is just in that immediacy.
Yeah. But I just see it as...
For me, no, I also have agreement with you about, super woke, leftist, trans fixated parents who are, what now? Somehow now their big inspiration is to focus so much on what gender their child is or isn't or whatever and talk to like a 5-year-old about, are you a boy or a girl? Are you a boy or a girl? It's just irrelevant. So the deeper way is the irrelevance. So you just let them live and let them be. It's like, do children need injections to prevent puberty? Well, I don't know, but probably not because it's irrelevant to children unless you force that to be relevant to them. Like gender as a social construct is forced onto people. That's why it's so relevant for people. But if we were focused on just kindness or compassion or forgiveness or, meditation or being with nature, why is it so important if you're a boy or a girl? That's mostly about sexuality, so that's irrelevant to children. Sexuality is irrelevant to children. They're kind of agender because they're not in a position to reproduce or whatever. So, but then if you take, like I was saying about Donald Trump, like if you like Donald Trump, well, Donald Trump has a lot of likable qualities. That's why he got voted in, right? We can agree on that. Some people like Donald Trump. Yes? Of course. What are you talking? What's this woman talking? He's looking like, I'm not sure if some people like Donald Trump. Some people love Donald Trump.
Most people in America love Donald Trump. Otherwise, he wouldn't be.
Well,
president.
yeah, the majority. But if you
No, sorry, keep going.
if you create this affinity of like being against something, you're actually empowering that thing.
Yeah,
you're-
I know,
you're-
exactly.
you're-
I know,
You know,
I know.
so
That's like the anti-fascist movement. You know, there'd be like neo-Nazis having, you know, white power rallies, and the anti-fash would go, and I would say, why are you going? You're supporting them by showing up with your energy. To me, that's the same thing. You know, and that's. But as for Trump, I don't. People, it's such a like a sticking factor. Like, people always use it.
Trump's farts.
No, people. It's just like this sort of. I don't. People always ask you, you know, how do you like? What do you think about Trump? What do you think about Trump? And I mean, no one's asking me, but I'm telling you. Someone asked me recently, and I said, I don't think about Trump. I'm trying not to think about anything, you know. But I don't neither like him or dislike him.
No, you're trying to think about the Buddha, the Dhamma,
Yeah,
and the
that's
Sangha,
right,
and
that's
the
right,
monastery, the Plum Village
Yeah,
Monastery
that's
down
right.
the road.
Yeah, concerning myself with the Buddha.
The Triple Gem.
Yeah, the Dharma and the Sangha. Yeah, the Triple Gem. Yeah, totally. But I used to like Trump. Like, I actually, if I looked at him holistically, there's some really good policies that he's put in place, and also like traveling around making peace with all the leaders, and like I'm a peaceful person. I'm, you know, anti-violent, non-violent person. Like, that was a part of how I would protest, through non-violence. So that meant something to me. But then nowadays I just am everyone. But all these people, they look at me, they think I'm like a greenie, you know. Like a lefty. I fully look like a lefty.
They don't know you're a second wave feminist turf. I think they're rare. I think they're a dying breed. They're a dying breed. I had no idea that I would be face to face with a second wave feminist turf. And for those who don't know, that's a trans exclusionary radical feminist.
No, we're not.
Well, that's what they call them. That's what they call them.
You just called me that. You're saying they. You just called me that. I'm not.
You're not a trans exclusionary radical feminist.
No, we're
okay.
No, we're not excluding trans people. And please don't call me a turf, because that's not a term that is appropriate for you to address me as.
You don't like that.
It's an insult. It's an
How?
absolute insult, because that's not what. That's what.
I don't know how it's an insult. I think that's just
I'm
the
not
term that people give to
exclusionary.
them.
I'm not, just by saying there's a circle that only women can go into, and if you have a penis, you can't come in. That's not exclusionary.
But that's what they call it, right?
Who's they?
That's what the term
Who's
is.
they?
Third wave feminists, social justice movement. Because I've heard a lot about that stuff. I've met a lot of people in that realm. That's why I use that term.
I stand up for the rights of trans people.
Yeah.
I
What you were
stand up
saying
for the
about the
rights.
trans
I stand up for
activists.
the rights of any marginalized person, anyone. I do not exclude trans people at all.
Yeah. You'd never want to do that.
I would put my life on the line to protect marginalized people. Like that. That's why I get pissed off about being called that, because it's not true. That is not true at all, ever.
But some trans activists, for example, would say, by your definition of what you're describing of the penis thing, would say that that's excluding trans women from women's spaces. That's why I said it, not because I was trying to insult you or something.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting to me, because I try to kind of keep an observer perspective about it, and not take a hard, because I don't own any bathrooms, so I'm not, but
Yeah, but you're also a man, so
Yeah, so it's not my purview what women are advocating for. You know, I leave
well,
that to women.
well, you should just stand up for human rights, whether they're men or women. Like humans, especially marginalized groups of humans, they matter. But
We have another second wave feminist in the chat. Yeah.
yay! I love you. I love you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's funny, in activist circles, a lot of people, they're very much against racism.
Yeah.
But as soon as,
You talk about that topic.
yeah, it's like I'm the problem.
Yeah,
It's
you're
like,
the devil.
hang on, but you're standing up for, um, First Nations people's rights, but a woman's right to
Self-determine her own
yeah,
spaces,
is
right?
wrong. Like I'm not down. I'm not down with that. This just seems.
Well, there's something very valuable about that energy that can lead to conflict for like doing for activating. But once it gets to conflict, then it's like a gladiator ring, you know? So I can see like a part of myself that's, oh, I love to see two people go at it and like debate. But it's more so I like to see people who are passionate about their views discuss it and get more refined about their, what their views are and where they meet and where they, don't meet.
Yeah, well, it's important for people that don't agree to have discussion and to listen to opinions like that don't align. And it's because we have to listen and to everyone where they're coming from, whether we agree with it or not. It's important to have a dialogue and to be open. I'm open to having my mind changed. I'm not defined. Like, please prove me wrong. Like, I'm open to that. But I
Yeah.
haven't met anyone yet that could. So,
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be that person.
no. Well, that's why I like your teachings because that's pretty full on. If you had been like one of those, like, you know,
Well, I used
oh,
to be more. I got activated by because I used to like, I kind of be open to like social rights and stuff, but I was in the position of a very immature, young white American man that was not traveled and not read, but I would like criticize like the Black Lives Matter movement and like how they're doing things and like they should be more tame or this and that, right? And this Puerto Rican woman that I was in love with at the time, she kind of sat me down and said, "Well, wait a minute. Look at the history of white people in America, white people like you, and their relationship to black people and slavery and all that. So, are you really in a position to criticize their activism? You know what I mean? Especially considering what you and your ancestors and your community has, the position that they've been in." So that kind of got me activated. But then more recently, I've been, because I got into the Buddhism and like almost the conservatism of renunciation and like the danger of lust and the value of like willingly not participating in sexuality and things, where I really start to question, do we need or what is it really about when we're marching and celebrating what we're sexually attracted to? Whether we're gay or straight or whatever. And I know that there's subtle lines about it, but marching down the street with a dildo strapped to your head it can be quite intense. And celebrating lust. And I don't think lust is something that should be celebrated whether you're gay or straight or whoever, you know.
well, I just think it's completely natural and normal to be gay, to be straight, to be trans, to be, a feminist or like everything is natural and normal. But I just don't like that being pushed onto children. Like I'm like, if you're a full-grown adult and you do you, I support you, I love you, but just don't. That's when I get pissed off. I'm like, that's where I draw the line. Just don't do it to children, okay? Just leave the kids alone and you do that and I'll shut up.
Yeah, I think they should emphasize like Buddhist monks doing reading sessions at the library over performative, gender performative men or women. You know, where are the women? So you've got we're kind of getting into this off topic a little bit, but where are the women that dress like men to read story time books at the library for children? And it's kind of a meme, but it's just like an opening. I've never had the chance to actually have a good dialogue with LGBTQ activists about these thoughts, but of course it's okay. It's just like a clown, right? It's a performance in a certain way, but it's maybe a performance that's too like sensitive or sexually related and gender related for children that aren't really don't need to have a gender paradigm outside of their relationship with their elders that may have a gender paradigm that they're expressing, you know, in their community. And trying to make the whole globe or the whole planet like this one world culture is maybe not the best idea, seeing as how, you know, our culture has been as of late. So whether Donald Trump's a good guy or a bad guy, I'm not interested in him being the president of the United States, because he's just some billionaire dude who's an entertainer and a salesman. And I don't think that 80 and 90-year-old people in general are in a position to lead politics. They're certainly in a position to be vulnerable to lobbyists and special interest groups and being, you know, finagled and pushed into being a certain way, or you know, pushing forward certain corporate interests. But I don't think they're in a good position to be like leaders of culture and leaders of community. In America, at least, I think it's different when you're talking about Aboriginal elders or elders of the native lands. You know.
But for me, I get really, like, it's hard to speak openly, like, because even right now, like right here and now, because, you know, I don't.
Well, once you get into attachment, you're in a bad way, because what's the animalistic essence of that is my knife, your gut. That's what it comes down to, and that's never a place that we want to be in. You know, that's the history of patriarchy, is that men had more physical power generally to force women to be a certain way, just by pretense, or just that's the way that it was. It's not necessarily that they culturally did that, but that's the way that it was. That, you know, the man was maybe carrying the spear more often than the woman, so the woman has to say, wait a minute, if this guy gets angry, he might kill me. And they have, and that's what men have done for a long time to women.
Yeah, it's true. Well, we're just constantly, you know, looking over our shoulders, and it's just it's tough, you know. I was telling my friend today, I was like, you know, I can't even fall asleep around guys, because I was sort of explaining the camp situation, and, you know, I was like, it's hard for me because I've only had like a couple of guys that I've ever really shared a bed with, but in my whole life, and it's you guys are fine, like, it's totally fine. We all, you know, slept in a same area, you know, but for me that's a really big deal, because, you know, falling asleep is when you're most vulnerable, and the reality is that, you know, I was raped twice when I was asleep, you know, by two different, you know, and so that's and like so many women I know, we've all been raped, and we get raped and we catch the bus, go home, get up, go to work, you know. That's the reality of just an average day as a woman, you know. And so many women are just being raped, and
Well, it's very normal.
it
It's
is.
a very normal thing for women to be abused
And
physically,
We
sexually.
just accept it,
Yeah,
you know.
it's
It's
very,
just a
very
part of
normal.
our life, and I don't. Not saying it's okay, because it's absolutely not
No.
okay. It's horrific, you know, and that's why it, you know, these things matter, you know, because because of the children, you know, and the women and the children and the men. I care about the men too, because that can't be good, you know, or because no matter, we're all human beings, you know.
Well, there's the trauma of the abused and there's the
Yeah.
trauma of the abuser.
All of it. It's just the opposite to how it should be, which is being supported, you know.
And it's just held together by this halfway decency. You know? Like Wally B was saying.
Does anyone want a cup of tea?
Sure. If you go for a cuppa.
Thank you.
The decaf tea?
Yep, decaf.
Great.
But ultimately, like you said, I think it's not worthwhile having like an absolute position, and it's always like a case by case basis.
It's moment by moment, and it's all about our direct experience. And it is one thing to be a politician or to be a community leader. You know, that is one thing. But most of us, most of the time, are not in that position. So our ability to be more into and open to awareness and the direct experience of the direct case is what allows us to then be a good leader, be a good politician, be a good teacher, be a good whatever. But you get that way through, you know, going on camping trips with groups of men or groups of women, or, you know, having mentors, having elders, being a part of a robust community of people that have time to spend with you. That's not just about talking about things, but to actually be together. Because a lot of things you can't talk about. You have to transmit those things through exposure.
Yeah.
And so many young people, young men, are growing up without basically any exposure besides the schooling system and then consuming media. You know, maybe they play on a sports team, but it's a lot of just being reared or raised by other children.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of it is, because the parents and the elders are just out of the equation. And the elders or parents, the leaders that they do encounter, are a part of a forced schooling system that was built to make workers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what they say. And I don't want to be a worker. I want to be a giver. I want to be a blesser. I want to be a forgiver. I want to be a practitioner. Individually, independently, in an individuated way that's according to my heart, not the obligations that people have about, you know, who they think I am.
I'm sorry I yelled at you, calling you too. I didn't mean to yell.
Oh, we're all going through it, aren't we?
Yeah.
So.
I'm not, that's not very nice when I yell, so I
Oh,
apologize. Try to handle myself a bit more without the yelling.
All part of the process, eh? Namaste.
Yes, Lee.
You've got some nice muscles I saw when we went for a swim.
Oh, thank you.
Do you think you could pour this in there? 'Cause my
This in
upper,
here?
yeah, my upper body strength is not equal to yours. Yeah. That's where when we pour, yeah, if we take this one off, it will make the pouring nozzle easier, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to do the book.
Yeah, totally. I've got the other one there too.
Is this for,
Little water.
or should we just start drinking out of here?
Yeah, I just thought put it in there. And then we can refill those or whatever, you know?
Right.
It's great. It's really good to be successful. You know, it's a great feeling when things are working out, when things are going well. But there's a danger in it as well. So being successful or things going well is not as great as not holding on to thoughts and appearances and an identity of things going well or bad. Because what goes up must come down. So the higher way, the higher mind, is to not be dependent or identified with up, so that when things go down, as they surely do, you're not identified with down. You're not identified with loss. It's a reminder of awareness. It's a reminder of impermanence. It's a reminder of selflessness. It's a reminder of the unsatisfactory nature of appearances. They're not reliable. You can't keep them. You can't hold on to them. We won't be staying here too long, so we should get just the right dose of lead to kind of calm us down, calm our minds down.
You want honey?
I'll have a little bit of.
I won't have any honey.
Actually, you know what? I won't have honey because I've been eating way too much cake. Yeah.
Shit, but honey's medicine.
No, it's okay. Just eating bread, butter, cake all day, non-stop. Any cup. Small cup is fine.
Soy or milk?
I'll take the one, so might as well finish it up and get off. Listen, you heard stories that petrol station at Murray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go in. What have they got in there? Fresh milk?
I'm assuming, I didn't properly see, but I'm guessing they just have like bread, milk, staples.
Yeah.
I be free from suffering. May we be free from suffering. May all beings be free from suffering. We can say it together, putting all our sincerity and authenticity and depth and heart and body and mind in it. May I be free from suffering. May you be free from suffering. May we be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. Happiness is where compassion meets suffering. Anybody who wants to write me into their will, they're very welcome to do so. And death is very real, you know. Death is just as real as being alive right here and right now. So we can kind of reminisce on death or remember our own absence. We can remember the soonness of our departing from this mortal coil. Yeah, there's a lot of living out here. Kind of a timeless day. We have to start to be okay with scariness. Scariness is also scared, like a child. Scariness is like a child. So who is going to hold that child and soothe them besides you? The sun, it goes way, way down below. To where, I don't know. To where. The Starlink burned out the battery on the car. Would you like to say hello on the live stream? Yeah. Wait a second. Yeah. Yeah. They're jumping the car.
Ah, yeah.
Shelly, are you going to take responsibility for draining out the battery on Lee's car with the Starlink?
Hold up, wait a minute. Never said that? Oh, you have? Not to me.
Don't give up. This is a part of your training. This might be the moment. This might be the breakthrough. How bad do you want it? Come on. It's now or never. Come on. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Aditya, you want to stream a little bit? Just walk around and talk to him a little bit?
Hello, Sangha. How's it going? I'm gonna put some stuff back in my tent, so I'll bring you along with me. And it's just plugged in there. And you can see what the voltage is at, so we're told not to go like above like 12. It's on like 10 right now. Yeah. Literally, we're probably like the only people in 50 or 100 kilometer radius for sure. Oh damn, now we have 10 viewers. As soon as I get on, it just goes down. I'm not as entertaining as Dr. Rob, as you might know. It cut out. Yeah, maybe I'm walking too far. back now? Is it good? I know you're in Perth, Shelley. Whereabouts are you based, Mr. Cat? Yeah, Lee's car ran out of battery because we were using that initially to power the Starlink, so it just drained it. Australian spiders. Oh shit. I don't know if it's... This mountain in the distance is called the Pregnant Woman. I'm sure you can guess why. Do I like the isolation? I mean, I don't mind it. It's definitely what I would have wanted when I was in Sydney. But you know, I think maybe a lot of people, and I would have thought the same in the past, where I would have thought, oh yeah, if I go on a trip or a holiday or go out in the outback, you know, I'll get away from all my problems and feel wonderful. But not to say that I feel horrible, but it's like all those conditionings come up, but at least you have a lot of space to, you know, just be with yourself and exist. And our friend Wally B was saying something interesting, which was he was saying that his like brothers or his family were asking him, like, what do you get up to all the time? And he gave them whatever response, but later on he realized that he should have responded with, would you ask that question to a lizard? Which is to say, like, you know, everyone kind of expects us to be always doing something, but sometimes we can just exist, and that's what this is. A lot of existing. Yeah, I can show you the sunset. So the sun's mostly set, but it's got this very nice color. And the stars at night are phenomenal because everything's like so flat. It almost feels like you're under a dome. So I can kind of understand how people come up with this flat earth theory, because when you stand out here, it almost seems like the earth is flat and you're under a massive dome of stars. I'm not a flat earther, but yeah, your mind issues do go wherever you go. And you know, right now, like, there were phases in this trip where I was thinking to myself, like, I can't wait to just go back, you know, feel the comfort of my home cooked meals. And you know, I quit my job like very early on in the year, and parts of the trip made me feel like just going back to that kind of lifestyle. But at the same time, you know, I realized that even when I do go back to that lifestyle, this part of me which is willing to be with myself is usually going to override however I feel about my job. And I end up, you know, kind of taking these big leaps of quitting again and going off again. And so, you know, I'm really considering to, and even Dr. Rob and I were speaking about this earlier, really considering to experiment with things and find this middle way, because, you know, the more and more this trip unfolds, I kind of appreciate and I realize how much it takes out of someone to be in Dr. Rob's position, even though it might not seem like it. And even initially when I came across his teachings, I was like, oh yeah, he's doing, you know, what I'd want to do, be a digital nomad, be a streamer, make money from the internet, travel. But it takes a massive ability to endure and value compassion and altruism, service to others. And for myself, you know, I'm always willing to support and serve the community and things like that, but there is a big reluctance in me to follow in Dr. Rob's footsteps and do what he does, because it's very hardcore. And knowing my own tendencies, I feel like I would burn out very easily and very fast. But yeah, we were talking about some ideas around playfulness and fun, because that's definitely an element that I feel is more palatable to certain archetypes of people. But we were saying and discussing that this element of playfulness can arise once we kind of go into that seriousness a bit more. So yeah, I'm just experimenting all around. It's getting really dark out here. There's not much lights because we're just running on solar. Yeah, last you saw me, I was bald and white. But you know, this meditation stuff really works. Yeah, exactly. Tiger eating rabbit. Yeah, 100% Shelly. That's the plan, you know? Yeah, that's the plan. I think I was missing home a lot more at certain points. But, you know, I think it's important for, you know, us to all kind of learn to be with that unease, because for me, I feel like, you know, it's very easy for me to get ungrounded and feel kind of feel kind of on edge. And you know, if we really want to kind of pursue this service to others and all these kinds of things, there's a very high degree of uncomfortableness especially in this age where we're so stimulated and there's so many things going on that our DNA, our nervous systems are not used to this. So it's good to kind of find refuge in the moment, find refuge wherever you are. And yeah, I'm grateful that these teachings can at least remind us to come back to ground zero, if you want to call it that. Otherwise, what often happens, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this, is in our relationships, it's just like our neurosis and their neurosis just multiplying and creating a lot of disharmony. Those two little buildings over there is the dunny, or the toilet. Yeah, and you know what? Like one thing I'll say about meeting the Aboriginal community yesterday, and learning more about their culture through talking briefly with Wally B, is I have great appreciation, and I have realized that there is a lot of, and I didn't think this as much previously. I didn't give it much thought, maybe because of my own kind of ignorance or arrogance, but there's a lot of deep wisdom and alignment with their culture and, aligning with nature and a lot of these Eastern philosophies as well. So, yeah. And another thing I was expecting for some reason, I don't know why, maybe this is my own insecurities projected a little bit, was I was expecting kind of a resentment from some of the Indigenous people towards, I don't know, people in general. But the elder we met had a very open and accepting energy, and it was just like we were connecting with another uncle or family member of ours who was open to sharing his experiences and wisdom with us. So that was very nice. And thanks to Shelley for the Starlink. This wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you as well. Maybe I'm gonna have to use my own flashlight. And another thing that I've kind of learnt to, or gotten accustomed to on this trip, is this notion of or this idea of not necessarily needing to plan so much, but I'm wary of saying that because there's a caveat to that, which in myself was made clear to me was kind of this reluctancy or this attitude of like whatever goes. But that's not always ideal, because it's also my responsibility to contribute in the ways that I can and capable of, with this kind of value of altruism in the forefront, and kind of transcending this notion of like everyone has equal duties and equal responsibilities, because that's when you kind of become complacent and reluctant to do anything. So it's really important, you know, these teachings for our own relationships, community building, whether that's an in-person community, virtual community, it's all important. And like, you know, we're all extremely dependent on each other for our survival and thriving. Yeah, and another thing that I'll share from my kind of experience and perspective, kind of related to that discussion you guys would have watched Dr. Rob having earlier with Lee and you guys, was kind of be cautious about these absolute perspectives. Like sometimes, you know, we might have a stance and say like, these are just very random examples, but like all men are bad, or this and this is just this way, or whatever. And sometimes these generalizations are supportive and helpful, but for me, I personally think it comes back down to a case-by-case basis. And at the core, having these values of compassion and curiosity and service to the other as well. And right now, so I guess I'm feeling pleasant, and some of the thoughts I have during the day are like, oh, how are we going to get to the next stop? What are we going to do for the next destination? You know, are we running out of food? But in a way, like, you know, it's a very like enjoyable and a very beautiful situation to be in, like running out of food and not knowing how we're going to get to the next in fact, I don't even know what the next destination is. If I wanted to kind of articulate my thoughts, it's like, okay, either I want to go to Alice Springs, Uluru up north, or to Perth, which is both like 12 hours north or 22 hours drive to Perth, or are we going to catch a plane or whatever it is. But it's like just a surrender to just being here. And just like we got to this moment here, truly deep in the outback, it just unfolded very spontaneously, not from a insistence on doing or planning or forcing. It just kind of arose. So that kind of situation is very interesting, and I'm learning a lot from it as well. And for myself, you know, I also used to have kind of a part of me which would like neurotically keep asking questions, and questions are great, and they've gotten me to the point that I'm at right now. But also kind of, you know, having a bit more humility, especially when you find a especially when I've worked with two other mentors in the past, and I consider Dr. Rob a mentor of mine, especially with mentors who you truly align with at a certain point, this kind of humility and surrender to what they are sharing, and not necessarily over intellectualizing so much of it, because truthfully, I may not be able to kind of regurgitate the wisdom or sharings that Dr. Rob has, but just simply to be there and listen with an openness and leave it at that, and surrender my ability to understand. Because another thing I was thinking about on this trip was, the subconscious mind is responsible for so many functions in our body: immune response, healing, yada 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 yada. It's so much more kind of in a way more intelligent than this conscious mind, but the conscious mind kind of has this arrogance of needing to know and acting like it knows, and conceptualizing things in a way. But there is kind of like a greater listening, a greater unfoldment, a greater awakening that is happening, that I think about as well. And I kind of also think about like jiu-jitsu, which I actually started not necessarily for health and fitness, but more so because it was a very cerebral sport that I think integrated well with this spiritual path, if you want to call it. And jiu-jitsu, if you don't know, is like submission grappling, which is kind of like wrestling with submissions, so like chokeholds, arm locks, etc. And it's a lot of like ground fighting, and it's a very good. I actually see a lot of like kind of autistic and quirky people do really well in this sport because of its like cerebral nature. And when I started, and I haven't been doing it for too long, but when I started, it was like extremely overwhelming, and it felt like learning quantum physics. But just simply being in the presence of people practicing and taking it very slowly, without rushing. There's actually a quote on the wall in the house that we're on by Uncle Kevin, and it says something along the lines of never rush, or never rush into things, or something like that. Which I think is important, because of often, like, we have a very strong inner critic, which is putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to keep doing more, keep being more, keep serving more. But it's not about that. It's simply about being with the moment and focusing simply on just the small next step. If you want to kind of make it into like a linear kind of progression or whatever it is, just focus on the next step. And over time, like, I can see rapid growth in my jiu-jitsu performance. And not to kind of toot my own horn, but like, I will anyways. I do significantly better than a lot of people who are a lot heavier than me, which shouldn't be the case, because heavier usually has a bigger advantage. And that's simply because of, really just being present and not being so rigid with my kind of identity and having all these absolute ideas, like I'm going to force my way into this position or that position, and being extremely flexible from moment to moment. And also having this mindset of like failing quickly and failing fast, because the more we fail, the more we tap in jiu-jitsu, the quicker we learn. And it's a massive surrender for the ego as well, because it goes beyond kind of proving ourselves and showing each other how tough we are, and I'm the best at this and the best at that. And that's really helped me expedite my growth and do really well in that sport. And the same principles apply to this. So it's like having kind of that humility in this community with the teacher, and just sometimes just listening. So that my whole kind of spiel was about, like, sometimes just listening without over intellectualizing is something that I'm doing more often now, because it's kind of like at this point, it's like the me that is trying to intellectualize and conceptualize this is not the me that is ever going to get it. But at the same time, there is like a subconscious, unconscious wisdom or evolution, spiritual evolution that arises. So, yeah, that's just my perspective right now. As always, I'm experimental, and yeah, I guess taking that pressure off ourselves, because this, first of all, I personally don't really align with this idea of enlightenment being an absolute end point. I mean, I think there is, and I might be talking out of my ass, so just take this with a grain of salt. But I see it more as a momentum that is evolving. So it's not same with jiu-jitsu. You become a black belt doesn't mean it's the end point. It's simply a refinement of your skills, and the art is always evolving, whether it's spiritually, physically, mentally. But obviously at that level, you might start refining that art in a more specific way, or you might, it goes on for infinity, is what I'm trying to say. So instead of kind of having this attitude of like, okay, my goal here is to get spiritually enlightened and, do this and do that and whatever, it's like, how about we just try and progress as human beings to get from Buddhism or spiritual evolution white belt to white belt 1 stripe, white belt 2 stripe, white belt 3 stripe, 4 stripe, blue belt, so on and so forth. So I'm saying that because oftentimes I would put a lot of pressure on myself. So I'm sure some of you might do that too. So maybe we don't have to put so much pressure on ourselves. But that's not to take away from the seriousness of all of this. But, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try and head back inside because I can feel mosquitoes biting me out here, and I get very bad allergic reactions. It's like so dark now.
Shall we say goodnight?
Yes, we shall.
Okay. Good
Okay,
night,
guys.
everybody from Australia. We'll see you soon tomorrow, straight from the outback for more didgeridoo. Good on ya, mate. Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness, and detachment. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everyone. Bye-bye.